Hi, Sam. This is Josh.
Oh, well, hello, Josh Orton,
How are you?
emeritus producer of The Majority Report. How are you?
I'm good. I'm surprised. I'm normally infuriated by your conversations with conservatives, but that wasn't bad.
Exactly. He was toned down. No way
he was toned
wasn't.
It reminded me of, so when you were having that conversation, I saw a tweet from Chris Hayes, which I think applies directly, which he tweeted, one iron law of politics is, with rare exceptions, all arguments about process are actually debates about substance.
Yes.
Right? It's true. It's true with campaign finance. It's true with the filibuster. It's true with, executive action on immigration. And, the thing I aimed you during when you were talking to Mike is that, at some point you have to sort of, if you have to agree, in order to sort of get past anything, everyone has to sort of agree that the Republican Congress here is acting differently than Republican Congresses in the past. And, I think that you can start.
And at the end of that conversation, he said 100% not true.
The first thing you can point to is Mitch McConnell's comments right a month into,
That's
right
what I did
in the first month of Obama's term. That this is, and I've seen this from the inside, is that the Republicans are using the process and using obstruction as a messaging tactic. It's, look, you lock everything up and then blame Obama for not trying to use the process. It's like, well, you've already burned the bridge. You can't blame Obama for not trying to cross the bridge. Hey, it might be there. You never know. You can't see it, but you might as well try to walk across it. It's like they burned it down already. And everything flows from that.
Does anybody have a doubt? I mean, this is the thing. Does anybody have a doubt, though, and this is why Hayes is correct, does anybody have a doubt that if we were to reconvene with Indy Mike and President Obama got up tonight and said something to the effect of like, everybody, punting to February, because I was listening to the Majority Report today, and Indy Mike raised a good point. I know you can't hear me now because none of the networks are carrying this, but tomorrow I'm going to do another speech where I'm going to say, please, American public, pressure your Republican Congress people and get them to pass this. And if not, I'm going to do this in February. If we had this conversation on that day in February, Indy Mike would have been like, this is not right for him to do. That's the point. There's definitely, I think, a little bit of disingenuousness in that.
Yeah, and I look, I agree, and I think that this is the Lucy and the football thing again.
Uh-huh.
And I think if anything, and I didn't hear you make this point, but I'm sure you agree. If anything, I think Obama has been too willing to sort of theatrically go through the process, even though he knows that this is only shadow boxing. That he's been too willing to sort of play the game over and over again, so that at the end of it he can say, "Well, I tried." I think that it's been, and any number of policies that we can point back to over the last 6 years. I think he's been too convinced that part of his political capital comes from the appearance that he tried.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's. I only rephrase that because we can make that assessment even without getting into his mind as to his motivation. That is what he's done. He has at every turn met the Republicans on his own 30-yard line, and whether or not he did it because he was naive or whether or not he did it because that's ultimately what his agenda was, anyways. His purported own 30-yard line, okay? Whatever that he has consistently done that. And certainly from a rhetorical standpoint, clearly done that, right? Every time, now that they've won, they're going to have to govern. That type of thing. Or if they beat us in 2010, if they beat us in 2012, on and on and on. We heard that over and over again. Yeah, but I think at the bottom, if we had another 20 minutes with Indy Mike, which we will in the future, I think we would have gotten to the bottom of this. In other words, it's not just about those 4 or 5 weeks of process, supposedly.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's funny that what he was saying about how this move is unprecedented. This isn't something that past Republican presidents have done. I got the same thing talking to J.D. Hayworth the other day. Like that's what they've been saying for probably months now. And in the end of this, they don't want to talk about like you were saying, they don't want to talk about the human element. And I think two things. One, if more people had exposure to some of the families living in the shadows, this would be a different story. And I think culturally, we would see something sort of like what happened with gay marriage, where people just had more exposure to gay people that they cared about.
Yep.
And I think that for some part of this, the sort of economic stratification has meant that there's less exposure to folks who are living in the shadows.
Yep.
And then on the network thing, just the last point, do you have any doubt that the networks would carry this if it was popular or if it was about war?
Oh, yeah. If this was about war, they would have carried it in 30 seconds. And you know what? Yeah. I think, on some level, it's weird. It's strange that they're not carrying, because it's very controversial, isn't it? At least amongst the Republican Party. This could be the predicate for them, for some of them, for impeachment hearings, as far as they're concerned.
There was some sort of, I read some little TikTok about sort of how the White House sort of informally reached out to networks sort of to see if they'd be willing. The sort of feedback they got was negative, and so they did this thing on Facebook. And apparently the network executives took offense that this was announced on Facebook.
So weird.
And some people are sort of speculating. There was some speculation that this was almost, if there was any chance that they were going to cover this before, the networks were just it killed it because they were upset.